will sing hallelujah. I will sing, oh Lord. I will sing hallelujah. I will sing, oh Lord. For you are the source of my supply. Lord, I praise and lift you high. I will sing hallelujah, oh Lord. Good evening. It's still evening. Yes, got 10 minutes. Hopefully, that's all the time I will need. How are you? I pray that you all have had a good weekend. I'm not going to sit here and talk to the comments like anybody is here because nobody's here. I just wanted to share this. It was weird. I was watching a movie tonight, The Goonies. And The Goonies is one of those movies. I grew up in the 80s. And so I'm one of those weirdos who every time the Goonies comes on, it's very likely that I'm going to watch it because I enjoy it. It makes me laugh. So I am, it's entertaining, and it reminds me of very, very simpler days and simpler times. But I do enjoy it. And so tonight I was watching it, and it just kind of occurred to me that there are so many lessons that we can learn from the adventures of these young folks in this movie. And I'm going to just throw this out here. And as always, I call it, it's my 2 cents for what it's worth. Um, we can have some discussion. Awesome. We can just very quickly, I'm going to just run through some points and then get out of here because it is late and my Wi-Fi signal looks like it's going up and down. So what I very well may do is just record and no, we'll do what we do with it at a later point. But I was watching the movie. For those of you who don't know the movie, I actually should know the year of the movie, and I don't. I just know that it was a movie that was out when we were young. And what's interesting is I really did not get to see it when I was young. For those of you who know my story, I grew up in pretty conservative atmosphere. 85. I was in high school, and I believe when I did get a chance to see it, I was at my friend Crystal's house. I think it was. We chance. Usually that's where we got to go, where I could watch movies and things like that, because my granddad was real conservative pastor, and he didn't allow movies, and there was a lot of stuff on TV we didn't get to watch and all of that. So I really got to really get into the movie as an adult, and found that I liked it a lot. It makes me laugh, but there are some things. Now, for those of you who don't know the story of the Goonies, it starts out the beginning. We're introduced to some kids who are in a town that it appears the town is about to be sold to a company, and they are all losing their homes. They're all having to leave the community because it looks like the company is purchasing the land where they all live, the city, the town that they're all from. So everybody's preparing to move away. We find there's some really interesting scenes at the very beginning, and it's got a real common tone for movies in the 80s, and it was to really kind of highlight how parents were kind of incapable and not really, not really reliable. They really didn't understand things, and so if something was going to be done, the kids were going to have to do it. So, and that's kind of what happens. That's kind of what happens here in this movie. Is there's some kids who go on an adventure, and they ultimately end up saving the town from being bought out by this company. So I'm going to make one more adjustment here to see if that helps with what I'm trying to do. And if it does, and I can get my signals to be a little more stable, we're going to press on in. Okay, so I'm gonna give it a try here. Let's see. Second. Well, as I'm preparing that, what I will go ahead. I never like to. Always like to come for you a little bit of encouragement. Always offer some insight scriptures. And today, I don't know if you can see, but I am wearing a sweatshirt from Line by a young lady. She's an acquaintance. I met her at a conference with IHOP, Apostle Sophia Terrell's church, and um, her clothing line is called Love Perseveres, and one of the shirts that she has, it has the forgiven with scripture Psalm 86:5, and essentially a reminder that we are forgiven because our God is good and He is quick to forgive. He is ready to forgive all of those who call upon His name. And so, just a reminder, you don't have to be bounded. Anything you are, you can be forgiven. Hide your life in Christ. Accept Yeshua, accept Jesus as your personal Savior, and you too. You do to you do you can be forgiven. So anyhow, of every sin, nothing you can do that can override that thing. But okay, so as I was watching it tonight, it occurred to me there were some some key points that I thought were really interesting from this goofy little movie. Again, it's called The Goonies. Some kids go on an adventure. They ultimately end up saving the city. The tone of a lot of movies of the 80s, as I said earlier. Parents are kind of incapable, they don't understand. They're a bit of a problem. But kids, if there's something phenomenal that needs to be done, the kids are gonna have to do it. They have to pull together and do it. So the first thing that I saw as I was watching it was, proper parenting is key. The movie opens with the bad guys, the villains, breaking out of jail, led by their mama. Hey, Sister Sonia Miller, how are you, Sonny? Good to see you, sis. Thank you for stopping in. They start out. They start out with the bad guys, the villains, breaking out of jail. Now, um, I will say it was interesting to me, and I don't right now recall. I know they're East Coast, but I don't quite recall exactly where the movie was filmed. But I don't want you to be dismayed. They don't have any black friends. There's no black kids in this movie, and so that's like one of the only grievances I have with that movie. But of course, again, not something very uncommon for a 1980s movie. But at the beginning, we get the prisoners, the villains are breaking out of jail, and their mama is the getaway car driver. And their mom, for those of you who are old like me, was the lady who starred in those Wendy's Where's the Beef commercials. I think, was that her movie? No, Throw Mama from the Train. It's the mama from Throw Mama from the Train. Again, another old movie that's fantastic. But anyhow, so the movie starts out with him, and she's got three sons who clearly, well, she has three sons with her, and they're clearly incapable of doing much of anything, but they were able to learn how to do what she needed them to do. And so the key point that jumped out to me is that, what, proper parenting is important. What you teach those that you have responsibility for, it will last them a lifetime. Unfortunately for this mother, what she taught her sons was crime. Unfortunately for them, the adult figure that they had to learn warped and shaped them in a particular way. And they never break out of that. They spend the entire movie bad guys, villains. They never have that aha, maybe I shouldn't be a villain moment. They continue to ride with what's put in them, clearly what's been put in them their entire life. And so proper parenting is important. Proper parenting is key. Now, what's interesting is the effect that a parent can have on their kids, because these kids who they've been locked up, but they've been free to be with their mom. It turns out near the end of the movie that they've got another brother who, because he has a deformity, they've kept him locked away. And he is the one who is able to break out of their villain mode and actually comes to the rescue of the kids, and actually ends up kind of being the reason that they're able to get out of the final fiasco that they get into in the movie, and that they're able to be rescued. And so this one who didn't have quite as much access to mom, he's a bit away from that bad influence. He's actually the one that's able to break the mold, use a different mindset, use his skills to help them do well, rather than trying to be the robber, the killer, the thief, whatever the case may be. And so I said all of that to say proper parenting is important. What you put in those that you have responsibility for, be they your children, nieces, nephews, uncles, people that work for you, whatever it is, if you are a leader, if you are a parent, if you are responsible for others in any kind of way, what you are teaching them really matters. And it has the ability to impact them for good or for bad for the entirety of their life. So take that role that you have, that seat in their life, take it seriously, because you have the ability to help shape them in a way where you're either properly shaping them or deforming them, one way or the other. But it was really interesting to me. So right after that breakout scene is when we get introduced to the kids. We've got Data, a young Asian boy he's got all of these maniacal little contraptions that he's worked on, little booby traps. And that's a bit of a running joke through the movie, is that he has a very strong accent. And so a lot of the things that he says doesn't come out quite clear. And so he's one, you can't hardly hear what it is that he has to say, but he's put together all of these little different devices and whatnot. And I'm sure that he is literally a villain, a Bond villain in the making, because the way his mind works, he comes up with these convoluted contraptions, but they do ultimately end up being useful in their rescue and their getaway. Then you've got Mikey, who's kind of the central figure in the kids. Despite the fact that he's got breathing trouble, he's got asthma throughout the entire movie. He's kind of huffing and puffing and dealing with this inhaler. So you've got this kid who clearly is the weakling, and he's contrasted with his brother, who's athletic and exercise and all, just typical movie meathead. And so then you've got Mouth, who really, I mean, Mouth is perfect name for him. Foul mouth little thing, who he's going to be pivotal in another lesson in one some of our points later. Chunk, he's the little fat kid in the movie. Now, back in the 80s, all this talk that we have now about body shaming and fat shaming and all that stuff, they weren't thinking anything about that in the 80s, because the running joke in this movie is Chunk, who is always hungry, always eating, always something related to food is going on with Chunk through the entire movie. And his inability to control his hungers and passions is actually going to be one of the things that we talk about later on. And so with Mikey, again, we get with him being the central figure, he's set up as this, weakling. People don't really expect a whole lot of him because he's not strong. He's not like his brother who's strong. He's not like, Mouth, who's got, who's witty, can come up with just smooth as ice. There's nothing seemingly special about him. So he's perfectly set up to be the lead story there. Now, where it gets weird though is, as I said, when the parents are introduced, when the mom comes in, mom's got an injury, so she can't pack. So she's hired this lady to come in and help her with her packing, Rosalita. This next key thing, and when I talk about proper parenting being important, as a parent, it's important to know who's around your children. As a leader, it's important to know who's speaking into who else is in the ears of the people that you're leading. Because the mom, totally out of touch with her son's friends, trusts mouth, who, as I already told you, will lie, he's awful. Literally, if you're super old, you'll remember Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. Well, he's Eddie Haskell's younger, fiendish, foul-mouthed little brother. And so the mom, all she knows is the charm that he puts on. And she also knows that Mouth knows Spanish. And throughout the movie, we're going to see there's quite a few languages that he's able to speak. And so, not knowing that he's a little snot, she trusts him to do the translating for this other lady. And so instead of him telling her the things that the mom has actually told him, he comes up with these really weird, twisted things that he tells the housekeeper. Like he talks, just he does that throughout the movie. And so throughout their little interaction there at the very beginning. So again, mothers, it is important. Fathers, it is important. Aunties, uncles, friends, family, friends, whatever, whoever it is important to know the company that your children are keeping, because it could very well be that you're entrusting someone who you think you know, but you really don't know. And so it's sort of running tandem with proper parenting being key, being an involved parent, and really not you don't have to micromanage your kids, but you do need to be involved enough to know who they are around. Because had mom known anything about Mouth, she would not dare have trusted him to talk to this lady that she's hired, and to talk to this lady that she's hired in another language that she doesn't understand, so that she's not able to filter or correct the things that he's saying. And so he sets this lady up pretty bad and has her thinking that she's working in a terrible situation, when in fact all she's doing, everything is perfectly fine. But again, parents, adults, know who it is that's around your young people. You don't have to be their friends. You're not. I don't encourage children and parents to be friends. As you become an adult, probably one of my best friends is my son, but I always sit in the seat of mom, and so I'm not saying be your children's friend. Never. I don't think that's a wise thing. But I do believe that you should have good relationship with your children. But you should really also have some understanding of who the characters are that are around your children. Because your children, I know they're perfect angels. But their friends might be different. And in some instances, your child is the friend that might be corrupting the kids. I mean, just remember you were a kid. You were a kid, so the kids probably not that much different. So anyhow, so early in the movie is where we find too that the Goonies is talking about the group of kids that I mentioned to you: Data, Mikey, Mouth, Chunk. They are the Goonies, and they identified themselves together. They are bounded in being known as rejects, as the kids that other people may not be friends with. And you see through the movie, they're not necessarily, the most popular kids. They are the rejects. And so many times you find that friendships develop out of those kinds of connections. And so they were the outsiders. And so I don't encourage. I'm for upward mobility and upward climbing and doing those things. But when it comes down to those people that you're going to have close to you, you're going to find that there are people that you're attracted to. They're going to be people that you have things more in common with. And I'm not I would never encourage anyone to try to break into some other group that forces you to have to be someone other than you are. When it comes down to the people that you allow close to you, you need people who allow you the freedom to be your authentic self. And if nothing else, these kids knew each other inside and out. They knew each other's ways. They knew each other's, flaws. They knew, who to rely on for this, who to rely on for that. Data's the smart one, and he's got all these different contraptions. Uh, Chunk, he's funny. He's gonna eat up everything, but he's funny. Mouth, he's got a smart mouth. He's gonna say something. He's gonna say some shocking things. But they all knew each other, and that's that is the next point, is when it comes down to developing those friendship circles and those people that you allow to be close to you. One of the most uncomfortable places is to have somebody close to you that doesn't allow you to be your authentic self, who doesn't allow you to be who you are, somebody who you have to change how you are to be around that person. Those are probably not going to be your close friendship circles. But those people who understand that you're human, who understand your flaws, who know how to laugh with you about where you're cuckoo and not at you. People who don't make you feel bad about who you are. People who allow you to be you, and really understand and accept all of you. Because those are the people that you're going to need around you. Because you're going to need people to be able to speak truth to you. You're going to need to be able to, and that kind of association only comes with time. You need to allow relationships time to see what they are. Many times we will just throw ourselves into something because we're so thirsty, for attention and connections. And I mean, we were created to be together. We were created for one another, and we're placed in community for a reason. And so, but sometimes we can be so excited about, oh, this friend, or oh, this guy likes me, or, oh, this person is interested in me. And we give them so much before we've allowed an opportunity to see. Hi, Facebook user. I can't see who you are, but I'm going to tell you, if you're who I think you are absolutely correct. Let me turn my sound down, and I'll have to open up on Facebook to see who that is. But you need friends who will allow you to be your authentic self, who won't force you to fit. Amen, Pastor Demetrius. You are correct. We are the Goonies. How you doing, bro? Yes, we are. I agree. It's those outsiders, the ones who people may have counted out, the ones who not necessarily in the cool circle, but the ones who can get the job done. Amen. So and so that's the other part about this group of friends is, yeah, they make fun of Chunk because he's the fat kid, but they're not making fun of him to make him feel bad about himself. Mouth, with his smart mouth, he's smarmy, he's hitting on everybody, but they don't, they accept their friend for who he is. They tell him when he's wrong, they tell him when he's saying too much, they tell him when he's doing too much. And you need people like that around you, who, in letting you be your best, being your authentic self, they actually help you with becoming your best self, with becoming who it is that you or purpose to be. Those people are going to help you get there. Those people are going to be the ones who um, will support you there. And I have found that those friendships many times will go beyond even sometimes people that you have blood ties with, because family is family. And I don't think that that's abnormal. I think that that's okay. I think that's perfectly okay, because it's very true in my life. I know my sister has some friends who she's been like really good friends with them with for such a very long time. I would never think, well, no, you're my sister and I'm your first. No, she's got other connections, and I think that that's normal. I think that's appropriate behavior. But you want to make sure that you have people around you, because those are the people who you can trust to speak into your life, to give you. If you, again, I'm not an advice giver, but if I were to give you some advice, it would be, make sure the people that are around you let you be you. They understand you and they have your best interest at heart. So we find out along the way that the dad is a curator. And he in the sounds like the city museum, local museum. And so they're in the basement. They find this treasure map. The treasure map connects them to this story of this pirate, One Eyed Willie. And supposedly, One Eyed Willie has a treasure that was never found. Even though people have looked for it and haven't been successful, experts, professionals have been on the look see to see if they can find this treasure, and they've just never been able to do it. So Chunk says to them, one of the things that I enjoyed about Chunk, and he's the little fat kid in the movie. One of the things that I loved about Chunk is Chunk would get these gut feelings, these intuitions, and they just simply were not listening to Chunk. Chunk's like, look, every time my stomach hurts, something bad is about to happen. I'm going to say, don't let people move you past your intuitions and your convictions. What you believe to be true, don't let people convince you when you know how your discernment works. You know how you hear from the Lord. Your process of working through things. Don't be so quick to allow people to manipulate you into a different position, because Chunk would be giving them good warnings. He would be all along the way. He's Prophet Chunk. He's telling them, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. And it sounds like he's afraid, but in fact, he is using wisdom given the facts that they have in front of them. But I'm real cautious with this section because many times the facts and the truth aren't always the same. And so you've got to know when to take a source seriously. First, you've always got to consider the source. Are they credible for the information that they're trying to give you? The warning or the encouragement that they're giving you, are they a credible source for encouragement and warning? Okay, sorry, I was frozen there. Are they a credible source even? Should you even be listening to them? What's the fruit in their own life? Do they take their own advice? Do you see wisdom working in their life? Unfortunately for Chunk had developed a history of being the little boy who cried wolf almost. He lied so much that when it was time for them to really listen to him and trust what he had to say, they always brushed it off because you couldn't take him serious. You didn't know if he was telling a lie. He's telling a story about something and it was the best ever. And they're like, oh, so it was better than the time that Michael Jackson stopped by your house and used the bathroom. And he's like, wait, no, really? Michael Jackson did stop by my house and use the bathroom. And they're like, yeah, whatever. They were so accustomed to his flights of fancy, his lies, his fibs, his embellishments, that when they were in serious danger, they couldn't take him seriously. They couldn't. His word meant nothing to them because he was so accustomed to these meaningless conversations. So, point, life lesson: be wise with your words. Don't waste your advice. Don't waste your wisdom on those who don't want to hear it. But if you're always giving advice, always giving information, always trying to give warnings, and people aren't listening, check you first. What is it that's affecting your witness, your ability to give this truth to people that's supposed to be good for them? But they're choosing to ignore it. They're choosing to throw it away. There may be something that you need to make an adjustment in. But as one who if you feel like you do have something to offer to people, it's important. I was never a fan of in leadership trainings, you get a lot of talk about executive presence. And executive presence is talking about, how to be a credible presenter, how to approach those in leadership positions, or, if you're making presentations to those in the C-suite, those executives, you're going to present yourself in a different way than if you're just talking with your peers or talking with people who report to you. And so you have to you present in a certain way in those arenas. Well, I think it's this same way. It's kind of what was affecting Chunk here. Was his usual flow was he's telling a lie, he's embellishing, he's adding on, so that when it came time for him to actually bring something of substance, they couldn't take it seriously because he was always fluff. He was always lying. He was always just running his mouth, endlessly talk. I don't think the boy had one moment in the movie where he shut up. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when it's a series of scenes where the villains are trying to get some information out of him. They're trying to get information out of him about the thing that they're doing in the moment. They're trying to get him to tell them where his friends are. And they start squeezing him for information. They're like, okay, kid, spill it. And when I tell you he starts running off at the mouth, Chunk is not the one to do something bad with, because he went all the way back to third grade. And he started telling them every bad thing he had ever done in his life. I don't think he ever got to the current day because he is just spilling information. And so that is why I say one of the lessons we can take from that is be wise with your words. At one, everybody don't want to hear, well, that's part one. Part two is just there's the scriptures talk about us being justified or condemned by our words. So everything that you have to say, you will have to give an account of. And you don't want your words to just be noise. You don't want your words to just be the noise in the background. You don't want the things that you have to say to be taken lightly because, oh, she always running her mouth about something. He always got it. He got an opinion about everything. He always is. Yeah, sometimes everything you feel isn't to be said. Today, I was having some thoughts and feelings about the situations with Kyrie Irving and the Nets. And it was like, you should probably not post that because you haven't thought this through well enough first. You don't know enough of the facts of the story to share an opinion, because I had an opinion I wanted to share because I was bothered by the list of steps that he needed to take in order to make it okay. And I was like, my gosh, for an opinion. I said, let's wait. And once I've had an opportunity to get some clarity on it, we're gonna talk about it, because there's something to that. There's something in this story that I think we need to digest, and it goes far beyond the opinion that he shared. Because again, I always say there's two sides to every coin. And so the problem that I have with your statement, with his statement, may very well be the problem that one day somebody has with your statement. And if he can be ostracized for an opinion, and he's got wealth and means to interact in the world in a way that we don't, he could decide he's done playing basketball in America and move on. I can't quit my job tomorrow. I don't know about you. I'm trusting the Lord with all my heart. If he tells me to go, I will. But it's just, I think it's just important for us to always look at stories from all sides, not just the piece that is connected to my interest, but looking at the whole picture. If his opinions on a topic can be taken so strongly and require such strong means of correction, what about when you have an opinion that's different? Or is the goal that we teach you all, whoever you all is, not to express your opinions because there's going to be extreme penalties for your opinions? So I think that's going to be a kind of thing that's important for us to watch moving forward, is all I'm saying on that. So, and tonight's not about that. We're talking about life lessons from the Goonies. So just be mindful of your words. Be mindful of your words. So the next one, there's a spot in the movie where the kids are talking about what they would do if they found all of the money, if they found the treasure, if they found One Eye Willie's treasure, what they would do with it. And the kids had a very pressing concern because, again, remember I told you the city has been purchased. They're all having to move. Clearly, in the story, some of them, their parents are having some financial issues as well. And so one of the most pressing things that one of the kids says is, if I had that money, I would pay all my parents' bills. And when I tell you that tonight I was listening to that, and it sort of hurt my heart because it made me think a lot of times about the pressure that we put on children when we're going through. And my apostle recently, I heard him. He made a statement about parenting when you're dealing with difficult situations, and how it's important that we learn how to share our story with our children without putting our pain on them. And many young people, children, they're dealing with issues of anxiety and stress, not really because of something that they're going through, but something that's been shared with them that causes them undue stress and pressure. And I don't believe in hiding things from children. If there are things your children need to know, I think you need to make sure that they know the things that they need to know, because you don't want them to be caught off guard, or, have that pressure put on them. And so what I think it is just important is, as adults, we need to find ways. We need to deal with our issues, but we also have to make sure that we're not putting adult weight on the backs and hearts and minds of our children, who don't have the ability many times to even do anything about a lot of the weights and pressures that you have as a parent. Um, it was good in the moment of this movie for them to make the point of, yeah, we've got a greater cause. It isn't just these are some kids that just want to get some money, but they are also concerned about their city. So the lengths that they're going to, the dangers that they're putting themselves into, and this is a comedy movie, y'all. But the dangers that they're putting themselves through, there is a greater cause than just, oh, these kids just want to get this money. So I think that, that helps with buy-in to the whole purpose of the movie, so that you understand why these kids are going to such extremes. There's a spot in the movie where they, moving on, there's a spot in the movie where they encounter a map that is written in another language. And you remember the young man I told you about, potty mouth, mouth. Well, mouth is skilled in languages. Mouth has the ability, clearly he knows multiple languages. And so there's a spot where this kid who is terrible actually ends up being able to be very helpful. The skills, the gifts that he has ends up being key in helping them get through what they're experiencing and through their challenges. And so, another lesson, nobody's all bad. Like I said, this kid, potty mouth, smarmy, just a wreck. But there's a point in the movie in which he is very key. There's another point, there's another character in the movie. It's a young lady. They're going through some really challenging spaces, and she's just falling apart. It's just, she's utterly useless. She's a weight because she's losing it and she's out of control. And they're having to spend a great deal of energy to calm her down. But eventually they get to a space where her gifts are important. She knows how to play the piano, and she's able to figure out the code in this message that they need, that helps them move forward in their journey towards the treasure. And so nobody's all bad. Not this kid who, has this bad mouth. There's something's going on when you encounter somebody like that. They're loud, they're brash, they're mean, they're angry. There's something going on with them. But nobody is all bad. Everyone has something redeemable about them, if the only good thing that you can find in them is the Imago Dei. They are made in the image of God. They were made for a purpose. Now, how they got to where they are, whether it's broken, whether it's um, however they got to where they are, it's where they are. And people don't deserve to be thrown away. People don't deserve to be discarded and counted out. Fortunately, in this movie, they sort of speak to those, who are kind of on the outside, those who are, as they call themselves, the rejects. As a matter of fact, this girl, she rejects their notion. I'm not a Goonie. I want to go home. It's what she says. I'm not one of y'all. I want to go home. That moves us to our next point. Know who's on your team. Know who, when you get in a tough situation, is going to be able to hang, or who you're going to have to minister to the entire time. You have to know who you can put weight on in your life, because otherwise you're going to put weight on people that they can't handle. You may end up being in a situation where you need support, but unfortunately, this person who you thought could be support, they're not strong enough to support you. They're not able to hold you in this situation. The girl is a very desired, person. She's pretty. She's popular. The boys like her, but in those testing times, she proves to be a burden. And so you need to know who's on your team. You need to know who you're working with. Okay, this person is good. Some will call them fair weather friends, throw them away. I say know your roster. Know who's on your roster. Know who you're playing with. You got to know in football if your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, who, my goodness, I developed even greater respect for him watching a game tonight. You got to know when you're in a situation. Look, we got 2 minutes left. Are we going to be able to win this game? If you got Patrick Mahomes, you stand a really good chance. If you got me quarterbacking, you're in trouble. So you got to know your roster, know who's on your team, know who can handle weight, know who can handle pressure. I didn't say throw them away if they can't handle it, because everybody's not you. Everybody's not strong like you. Everybody's not built for difficult times. But man, their compassion when they're able. The things, yes, know those that labor among you. Know who you can count on. You got, you're in a situation and you need someone to be spiritual. You better know who you're going to. Because if you're in a space where you can't pray, you're in a space where your mind is all over the place, and you're going to somebody who's just as all over the place as you, they're super carnal, you'll end up fighting. When it's actually time for you to be still and wait on the Lord to win that battle for you. So you got to know who's on your team. You got to know what they're capable of doing. Sometimes we have people around us because we just enjoy being around them. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to have people that are close to you, remember I talked to you at the beginning about those people who allow you to be your best self, those people who will help you be the person that you're purposed to be. In order for that kind of relationship to exist, you've got to know what's in people. One of the most uncomfortable conversations that you can have sometimes in prayers, Lord, show me the hearts of the people around me. Because if you can handle it, he'll show you. And you have to be able to handle what you see and still love them. And still not push them to go beyond what they're capable of doing. And many times we want everybody to be, if just because you can handle it. And I saw a thing today that talked about just because you can handle it doesn't mean you should. And many times we've been so shaped by the traumatic things that have happened to us, the hard times that we had in our lives. We've been so shaped by those things that we hard rocks. We can do anything. And just because you can do anything people who can't just handle anything, you see them as lesser than. I don't think that that's what we should be doing. I say simply know who you're working with, know the people that are, or know who you have on your team. Fortunately for them, they knew she knew how to play piano. So when they got to a place where her skills and her gifts were, she was the only one who could do it. So you see what I'm saying? That's why you don't throw people away. That's why you don't just leave her in that pit when it appears that she's not going to be as big a help to you as some of the ones who are more physical, some of the ones that are smarter, because they got to a place where if she hadn't been there, they wouldn't have made it. And she wasn't skilled in that. And they overestimated, or she had lied about her abilities. She was a liability. She had lied about her abilities. It would have killed them. They'd have been in a worse shape than if she hadn't been there at all. And so that's what I'm saying. We can't throw people away, but we do have to know what it is that that people bring to the table. You do have to know that. I love that, Pastor Demetrius. That's absolutely correct. The toolbox has many different and similar tools for many different and similar situations. Using the right one really helps and can save you. The wrong one could cost you, but they are all in the toolbox because they serve a purpose. And there was a time that you needed, or will be a time that you needed it, or them needed them. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I think in this world, so many people are broken because, well, we there's truth to people coming to your life for a time or a season or a reason, or that thing that people talk about to justify us dropping the people we don't feel like dealing with. We'll have that conversation another time. But there are people who do come into your life and they are important for a season, and when it's time for them to move on, you do need to allow them to let go. But many times we get mad at people because they can't be who we want them to be. They're not equipped to be, they're not making the turn as quickly as we feel they need to make the turn. So we just drop them. There is a time when you do have to understand where you're trying to take people to, but just throwing people away, that's not cool. And I say that as a reformed people thrower. I say that as a reformed people thrower because I would be quick to, you're dead to me. So we don't want to just throw people away, because there will be a point in a time in your life when the reason for the Father placing those people in your life will become clear. You'll understand. You will understand it better by and by. There will come a time when you will understand why every person that came into your life, why that person was in your life. We're, as a community, mourning the passing of one of our YouTube community um, friends, Jermaine Howell. We were praying for his family. If you're familiar with Berean TV, you know him as Brother Plummer. He passed away yesterday. I believe it was yesterday or either early this morning. And when I got the news, it hit me like one of my everyday that I see friends passed away. And this is a person I've never met. And immediately there was so much when I started to sat down, and I'm like, Father, why? Why do I feel like like one of my family members passed away? It's like, because he was a member of your family, he's your brother in Christ. That's the first thing, the reason that you feel. But when you have encounters with people, you're gaining from the interaction as much as you're giving. You're gaining from it. And whether you agree 100% or not with a person, most times, because I tend to be a little cuckoo, there's very few people who I 100% agree. Sometimes I don't even agree with myself. Okay. the good that I would do. You understand? So it's so yeah. I am still extremely impacted by the life of a person who I've never met them, but people have impact on your life. But I learned a great deal about passion and zeal and standing your ground when you know what you know. That you've been convicted of, don't you let anybody change you. You let the Lord change you. You let him show you the way. You let him show you where your errors are. Be teachable. Let your heart be pliable. But when it comes down to the Father, there's no greater thing to be passionate about. And your understanding of righteousness, your understanding of what pleases the Father, don't you let anybody change that. You allow his word to change it. You allow his Holy Spirit to change it. But what you know of the Father, you be passionate about that until the day you stand before him. Because at the end of the day, he's who we have to answer to, not people. I don't have to answer for your understanding, but the conviction that the Lord placed in my heart and the restrictions he put on my life, it may not take all of that for you. But what he told me, and this isn't private interpretation, this isn't extra biblical instruction, this is the conviction in my heart from what the Lord told me to do. No to that, Tracy. No to that, Tracy. Yes, you can do that. Though those restrictions, I can't submit. I don't even submit those to people. Many times the convictions that are on I don't even share those with people. Period. Period, as the people say. As the kids say, period. I don't even talk to people about it. My stand in certain areas, I don't even talk to people about it because it's a conviction that I have that may not be necessary for you, but it is for me. And so that's what I learned from Brother Plummer. And so everybody that's in your life, something that my pastor talked about some time ago, is you should understand why everybody is on the chessboard of your life. You need to know who your bishops are, your people you can count on for wise counsel. You need to know who your knights are. Knights are just bishops on horses. Those people who they decisive, 2 and 1, 1 and 2. Those people who understand making calculated moves, and they're aggressive parts. They're aggressive players in your life. Know who that queen is on your board. No gender. Talking position and purpose. Know your king. What's your understanding of the Father and his will for your life, his purpose and plan for your life? Yeah, purpose and plan for everybody. But what's your specifics? And the pawns. People say they're the weakest pieces on the board, but they're the only pieces of the board with potential. They're the only pieces on the board that if they survive to get to the other side, they can become whichever of the other than the king, they can become whichever of those other pieces that you need them to be. And so it's important for us to know who the people are in our lives. I encourage you, if there's somebody, if you spend 2 minutes looking at a video of mine, why the Lord put me in your eyesight? Why are we connected on Facebook? Why are we why? Why the Lord knit our hearts together? Why are you a Jonathan? Why we got a Jonathan David relationship? My brother, Pastor Demetrius, he's closer to me than some of my blood relatives. And I've never met him. Why would the Lord do that? He wastes nothing, so there's purpose behind it. There are people that I've met connected to other YouTube communities um, Instagram communities, um, different churches, different ministries, all different walks of life, different professions, different countries. And yet, for some reason, the Father found it important for us to encounter one another. What's that about? What did He put in you that I need? How you doing, Hope? I will okay, I will. Thank you. Um what did He put in me that you need? It's important to know those things. And so again, from the Goonies of all places, know the people, know them that labor amongst you, understand the purpose and the reason for everybody that's connected to your life. Um, just know, just understand, and don't throw people away. Nobody's all bad. Again, mouth, and I think the little girl's name was Andy or something like that. They seem to be liabilities in one area, but eventually they got to a place where their gifts and talents were the only thing that helped them be able to move forward. So, because Mouth knew all of those other languages, another tip, another life lesson: expand your horizons. In this movie, they used multiple languages, and there were multiple places where they got to. If someone didn't speak another language, they wouldn't have been able to get through where they're going. So you only know one language, you only know one way of doing things. Expand your horizons. We live in a big world. We live in a big old world. Don't let your world be so small that you don't get the opportunity to impact who it is that you're supposed to impact. Don't let your world be so small that you believe that life is only what you can see and what you think and feel. Think about the story of Lot and his daughters after they escaped Sodom and Gomorrah. Those daughters clearly don't think that there's another man out there for them to have. And so they end up getting their father drunk and having children, becoming pregnant by their father. And those Moabites and Amalekites end up being a problem for the children of Israel forever, pretty much. They're family, but man, whew, what a problem. So don't let your world be so small that you create an eternal problem for yourself just because you can't see beyond what you can see. Um, who's that? Tamla Mann in her song God Provides. There's a line in this song where she says, you know, is this all that life will be? That life isn't any more than what I see. But then she follows that up with a line that says, but my feelings can't control my destiny. Don't expand your horizons. Open up and realize that there's more to life than just what you've experienced. Okay. Next, my favorite character in the movie is Chunk. In case you don't know, my favorite character in the Goonies is Chunk. And Chunk says, Chunks, they are in a very serious situation. And Chunk is in the middle of handling whatever it is he's warning them, he's telling them blah 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 blah. And suddenly he starts smelling ice cream and he's like he totally loses focus. And him following that fragrance that was appealing to his nose, him following that thing that would feed his flesh, his giving in to that thing that was pleasure for him wasn't even appropriate at the time to be thinking about ice cream. They are in danger. But his hunger for that thing, his passion for that thing, actually ended up with him getting locked in a freezer with a dead body and ultimately him being captured by the villains. And there is where my favorite part of the movie where he is spilling his guts to them, goes forth. But Chunk's nose for ice cream led him to where he's trapped in this freezer with his dead body. He ends up getting left behind by the other kids, and then he ends up in the arms of the criminals. And the criminals that they're running from. And I love it when he's going through his list of things that he's done and things that he needed to confess. He starts in a confession of the time his mom sent him to a fat camp and he went nuts and he started eating everything and they put him out. That scene just makes me laugh. It's to me, it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie, and I enjoy that movie. And I enjoy it enough that like maybe a few months ago I went and looked to just see what happened to that actor. And I don't think he's acting anymore. I think he's doing something else, even outside of Hollywood. I don't think he's acting at all. But that scene was so funny to me, and I love it every time. Many times, if I'm watching the Goonies, that scene is about where I'll stop because I know the rest of the movie. The rest of it, I don't really like. I don't really care for it very much. But don't let your passions, don't let your thirst drag you off course. Don't let the things that you want are it's not even time for those things. Don't let those things drag you off course. Don't let your passions and your thirst sabotage your witness. Remember, we talked about it at the beginning. Chunk has all these good warnings for them, but because he lies all the time, he makes things up, he embellishes the truth, he tells stories. His warnings fall on deaf ears because honest Chunk, he's just talking. So by the same token, your inability to control your passions, your inability to control your mouth, always wanting to have the last word, always being ready for a fight, being confrontational when listening is the skill that you need to use. Um, we have to be mindful, not to let what we want get in the way of our passions for the Lord as well. He tells us in the scriptures to seek him first and his righteousness, and all the other stuff is going to get added to you. So you don't have to try to make things happen. And I think so many times we grow, like, I think many times suffering has been undertaught, going through and understanding that you're going to have to endure some things in life, period. Like I think sometimes we have sold people the bill of goods that you'll get saved and life is going to be a bed of roses because, the Lord just wanted to save you. And he's just, he's only be, he's being mean to you because you're his enemy. But when you come to him, then you can have whatever it is you want. Oh, nothing could be further from the truth. When you come to him, it means that you're going through the life that you're living and you have him with you in that life. It does not mean every day is going to be sunshine and roses. It does not mean that there won't be difficult days. It does not mean that when you're going through something difficult that you're displeasing the Lord. It could be you're learning the lesson of trusting him in those difficult times and in those difficult spaces. So that's it. That said, in the movie, one of the things they kept saying over and over again was if Chester Copperpot didn't make it, and Chester was this professional who had set out to try to recover One-Eyed Willie's treasure, and he didn't make it. Well, they ended up finding Chester's body. And Data, who hasn't said anything clear this entire movie, remember I told you the joke is his accent is so heavy they can barely understand what he's talking about. He hasn't said anything with clarity this entire movie. And the one extremely crystal clear line that they do give him is if Chester Copperpot didn't make it, there's no hope for us. Life lesson. Don't let what others couldn't overcome limit you in your search for overcoming. In your pursuit of breakthrough, in your pursuit of better, in your pursuit of any accomplishment, don't let what others before you were not able to do deter you. Use wisdom, learn from where they failed, because their failure is your lesson. Their failure can be your teacher. Their failure can show you where to miss these pitfalls. Now, the bad part, and I think especially in the kingdom, we're real bad about this, is we don't like to tell people the whole story. We only want people to see when the ministry was at 2,500 people. We don't want to talk about, well, actually, I started in my garage and it was, 2 people and the cats. And that's where we started. We despise humble beginnings. And so we don't want to tell people about when it was hard, when it was difficult, when it was a challenge, when it was a problem. Some people are very reluctant to share those stories, but understand, in sharing those stories, you're actually able to, as long as you don't take the glory for it. If you don't take the glory for it, give the glory to the Father. Give him the glory for the journey. But don't be afraid to share those difficult times and places, because people need to know they're not alone. People need to know they're not some freak of nature and that they're the only person who's ever dealt with. People believe many times that preachers preachers and gospel singers, I think people think we're perfect. Aliens from another planet who don't have difficulties, tests, and trials, who aren't sinners like everybody else, who don't have shortcomings and flaws. And they think that because that's how we talk to them. And many times we either glorify how bad we were. Oh, I was terrible. I was the worst, to the point that you disqualify yourself from being a credible witness. Or we don't tell the stories of the challenges. We don't talk about being a struggling, young, single mom, not sure where the money was going to come from, didn't know how it was going to come through, didn't understand why so many years just single, alone, learning to trust and depend on the Lord, being a young man and, being concerned about your family, and the days when it was tight and the money wasn't right and the relationships weren't working right and the job was going. People, we need to learn how to share those stories and give glory to God as we're going through the difficult times. And then as we're coming out, making sure that we don't get the glory for it. Because again, people think you some kind of superhero. And that's why the Lord bless you. See, he works situations out for you because you're different from me. And we tell them, see, you're not like me, so you got to be willing to pay the price and go through. There's a truth to that. But sometimes that you got to be willing to pay the price story makes it seem like something so difficult to accomplish that people feel like they can't. They need to know you cried too. They need to know, yeah, life is good today. But let me tell you about the days I had to hand wash laundry. Let me tell you about the days. Yeah, I got a couple pairs of shoes now. But let me tell you about the days when the ones I had on my feet were just about at the end. Let me tell you about the days when I would make sure my son ate, because that might be it for the day. There may not have been anything. People need to know. Yeah, I made some bad turns, made some wrong decisions, put myself in some bad situations, but the Father is so faithful. See, people need to know you've walked that walk so that they don't feel like they're just the worst ever. Yeah, you're not the first person to end up in a bad relationship. You're not the first person to end up in a bad marriage. You're not the first person to end up with some rebellious children. You're not the first person to be in a career that feels like it's a dead end. You're not the first person to get in a situation where the month is longer than your money. You're not the only person. Everybody's capable of being in those situations, but because we don't always know how to tell the story in a way that gives glory to God the way that it should, we give them the cliffs notes so that it seems like we're never like wanting, we're never having those questions, Lord, why, what's going on in this situation, why is this thing not working out. I'm just saying. So don't let what others weren't able to accomplish. They need to know your story, but make sure you understand your story and how to use your story to build them up. Not make them feel bad for what they don't know, don't have, because you didn't know it and you didn't have it and you made it through. So find the wisdom in what you went through that you're able to share with them. Let's see. We talked about know your team. We talked about when Chunk first encounters the guy with the deformities, he's so afraid of him. Um, but the person that he was most afraid of ended up being the person who actually helped him rescue his friends. The very thing that you're most afraid of might very well be the pathway you need to go, because that thing that you're afraid of, you know not to trust you. You know to trust the Lord in that atmosphere. You know, I'm not qualified for this job, so Lord, I got to trust you. I can do the job, but Lord, you're going to have to open that door because I can't get in that door myself. Man, this house, this thing I'm trying to accomplish, Lord, it's bigger than me. So you're gonna have to do it, and I'm afraid of this over here. If we'll be honest with the Lord and let Him know where we are and where we need help, that shows us where we need to rely on Him more for. And if we'll rely on Him to do it, His super on top of our natural accomplishes anything, much more than we could ever think of on our own. So, the thing that you're most afraid of can sometimes be your biggest strength, as it was for Chunk. He was scared to death of that guy, and I know I would have been too. But their relationship works out to such a place that he's actually able to be the rescuer. There's a spot in there where Data, remember I told you Data comes up with all of these different gadgets and gizmos and whatnot. And so they're trying to get away from the enemy, and he has these things called slick shoes. And what they are shoes that shoot oil out the back. And so they're walking across this thin um, bridge. It's a log, long log that they're walking across, and he squirts the oil on this gift so that the enemy that's chasing them can't catch them because they're walking on that oil. You need some slick shoes in your life. You got to find a way to get the enemy off your tail. Is it fasting that you need to do? I don't know. Is it praying you need to do? I don't know. Is it focusing, working harder? Sometimes it can just be, you know what? I'm in a season called tired. And I just don't have the energy to do more. But sometimes you're in a season where it's going to require more. It's going to require longer hours. It's going to require, more study. It's going to require a little more of you, because you've got an enemy that does not want you to accomplish, doesn't want you to achieve your goals, doesn't want you to get where it is you're trying to go, doesn't want you to reach the souls, especially if you're in ministry. Don't want you reaching souls. My goodness, no. Don't want you encouraging people. Doesn't want you fulfilling your purpose. Doesn't want you getting to that destined place that the Father has for you. So whatever that means for you, In the movie with Data, it was slick shoes. But whatever that means for you, whatever that means of resisting the enemy, because the scriptures tell us when we resist the devil, he'll flee. So however it is that you're able to resist the devil, whether that's getting stronger in your spiritual disciplines, your fasting, your reading, your times of meditation, your time of prayer, all of those different things. um we talked about everybody has a part to play. And the final thing, and it's funny because it was actually the initial thought that I had, was when I was listening, when I was thinking about the movie, one of the most iconic things about the movie is the song that Cyndi Lauper has. Good enough for you is good enough for me, is what she says. If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. When it comes down to the friends that we have in our lives and the people that the Lord has placed around us, many times we've got to learn to meet people where they are. I talked about it earlier. Sometimes we can put such heavy requirements on our friends. We can put such heavy weights on the people around us. If you want to hang with me, you got to fly. You know what I'm saying? You gonna hang with me, you got to be able to fight. You learn to meet people where they are. The first time I heard it, I thought it sounded to me like something my grandmother used to say all the time, which is, if you like it, I love it. That's what it sounded like to me at first. But for those of you who know anything, when somebody tells you, if you like it, I love it, they don't like it or love it, really. That's just their way of saying you settled. But when I heard that song tonight and went out and read the lyrics a little bit and found the lyrics made absolutely no sense. And so as I began to meditate, okay, Lord, what are we talking about? He said, literally meeting people where they are, not trying to put too much on people, giving people the same grace that you want, the same grace the Lord shows you every single day, the same mercy the Lord has on you every single day, the same compassion that Jesus was moved with when he encountered people with various sicknesses, diseases that were bound by evil spirits and sicknesses and all kinds of situations. You need that same compassion shown. And so it's important that you show that same compassion. So I am, I'm under construction, I promise you. And I repent of any time I've ever said or done anything that would make someone feel like they're not enough. Now, as brothers and sisters in Christ, we're supposed to be iron that sharpens iron, but we're not supposed to be iron that breaks. We're not supposed to choke out hope. We're supposed to build hope in others. And a great deal of that is having that ability to meet people where they are. That's not saying you're so superior that people got to get on your level. I hate those conversations about levels. I do. I hate it because it's easy to see people as less than when really they're just different. They're just running in a different lane. When you see relay races, those track and field events, the lanes are staggered. And if you don't have the right perspective, it's hard for you to tell who's in front, who's actually winning, because the lanes are staggered. And it can look like you're further behind than you really are. But that's simply because you don't have the right perspective. Because once everybody comes around that bend and they hit that straightaway, it's easier to see just where that person was lined up. And so don't put such heavy judgment on people when you're not even in the right seat or have the right perspective to be able to formulate an assessment of where you think they are. I'll be kind and say assessment. Many times it's judgment that we put on people, but I'll say assessment because we really don't. We're trying to hurt people, but understand that sometimes we can and we do. And so we need to be able to meet people right where they are. And so if I've got to love you enough to see where you are as your friend in those moments when I need to tell you something. But that's why you need to know those that are around you, because if you only have people around you who will tell you at a girl, you are a fatality waiting to happen. If they got to always be on your side in order to be your friend, you are a fatality waiting to happen. Because you won't hear that person who's giving you that warning, like Chunk was doing the whole movie. No, don't go. We're going to die. They're going to kill us. You won't listen to him and you will be a fatality. But good enough for you is good enough for me. It says who you are right now. I thank the Lord for him putting you in my life. And if there's a portion of your life's journey that the Lord allows me to walk with you, I'm going to walk with you, friend, as long as we walking together. Now, we're not going to be unequally yoked. I'm not going to let you pull me into nothing sideways or crooked. But this portion of life's journey that the Father has given us to walk together, I'm going to walk it with you. And I'm not going to be more weight than I can handle. I pray for you to not be more weight than you can handle. And that the reason that we've been placed in each other's lives is we're able to help bear one another's burdens. And when you see me in a sin, the word said, hey, look, you spiritual, restore me. And in that way, we ensure that good enough for you is good enough for me. Who you are, I love who you are. And I'm not going to spend our relationship time trying to change you or fix you. That's the Father's work. So, said all that to say, for what it's worth, a little bit of insight that, I think may have occurred. Some funny things and some helpful things, I hope. As I said, I watched Goonies tonight. And now that I know that it's on HBO Max and I can watch it without commercials, I will probably watch it a lot more because it is one of my favorite movies. Um, I thank you all for those of you who stopped in. Pastor Demetrius, Sister Sunny, Brother Hope. Thank you all for coming in and interacting in the comments. It's very helpful to me in keeping the conversation moving. Y'all know I can ramble and talk to myself for hours, but it's always nice to have that interaction. So, you all have a peaceful night. I pray that if you have not found it, that the Lord leads you to your Goonies, those people who will accept you where you are, know you in all your glory and all your flaws, but still be determined to help you pursue the Father's purpose for your life. So thank you for your time tonight. Have a peaceful evening, and Lord's will, we will meet here again. Hopefully before the week is out. I kind of feel my release to step back out here a little bit and have a little bit of fun. $50 bills. $50 bills. Yes, that movie is my jam. So have a good night. I love you all, and I hope to see you all again before the week is out. Talk to you later. Bye.